As 2026 draws near, a grave warning emerges from the heart of America, a stark portrait of economic vulnerability that challenges even the most seasoned analysts. Picture an America where the steady hum of industry is replaced by the anxious whispers of economic uncertainty. Today's narrative begins with a state that has long been defined by its natural resources. Alaska, with its vast oil and gas reserves, once powered a thriving economy. Yet over 80% of its GDP depends on commodities that are now in decline. If you're into amazing content like this, hit that subscribe button right now. It's totally free. As oil prices slide and global demand shifts, Alaska stands vulnerable, its financial stability compromised by forces beyond its control. Analysts warn that this reliance on a single sector could quickly plunge the state into deeper financial peril. The harsh realities of resource dependency remind us that even the most bountiful lands are not immune to the global economic trends that spare no one. Moving south, we encounter Louisiana, a state with deep cultural roots and an equally complex economic framework. With nearly half of its state spending tied to federal funds, Louisiana faces a precarious future should national priorities shift. In this in-depth exploration, we reveal the top 10 U.S. states on the verge of collapse. Federal budget cuts loom on the horizon, threatening to unveil a fiscal shortfall that could destabilize its public services and essential infrastructure. In accounts from seasoned economists and policy experts, the state's dependence on external funding surfaces as the core of its vulnerability. This heavy reliance not only compounds fiscal risks, but also underpins a seemingly inescapable cycle of dependency that challenges the very notion of local autonomy and sound economic planning. Traveling further into the heartland, we turn our lens on Kansas, where the lifeblood of the economy flows through the vast agricultural fields that define its landscape. Kansas, a state built on farming and rich soil, now grapples with falling land values and declining crop prices. Today, we dive into a story where numbers and nuance converge into a pressing call for vigilance, as the nation's financial future teeters on an uncertain edge. These trends are further exacerbated by potential trade tariffs that could choke one of the state's most important revenue streams. Farmers and local businesses face the dual threat of market volatility and diminishing returns. The struggle on these expansive prairies serves as a microcosm of economic fragility, a poignant reminder that even foundational industries are not impervious to the sweeping changes in global economic policy and environmental shifts. In the arid expanses of the Southwest, New Mexico's situation unfolds with a similar intensity. Here, the federal government plays a towering role in the state's budget, with over 22,000 federal employees supporting local economies. Nearly half of New Mexico's budget relies on federal funding, a dependency that magnifies its economic risks. With forecasts predicting cuts in federal spending, New Mexico's economic engine could stall abruptly, leaving communities struggling to adjust. The interplay between federal policy and local livelihoods paints a portrait of a state caught in a delicate balance between support and uncertainty. As experts weigh in on these trends, it becomes clear that no state immune to external fiscal pressures can escape the ripple effects of national economic policy shifts. The narrative takes an even darker turn when we examine Illinois, a state burdened by unfunded pension liabilities exceeding a staggering $140 billion. This financial behemoth casts a long shadow over the state's future, posing a grave threat not only to its pensioners, but also to its broader fiscal health. The weight of these liabilities is a persistent reminder of past policy decisions and the long-term consequences of financial mismanagement. In Illinois, the struggle to reconcile budgetary obligations with limited revenue streams is a volatile mix that could spark further instability. The specter of sinking under this colossal debt underscores a critical lesson. Without prudent fiscal planning and timely reforms, even historically prosperous states can crumble under the strain of their commitments. Rhode Island might seem an anomaly amidst these stark narratives. Despite a modest 3.2% GDP growth reported in 2024, the state battles deeper economic troubles hidden beneath the surface. Low levels of new business formations and minimal foreign investment reveal an underlying fragility that escapes casual observation. The challenges faced by Rhode Island are less about headline-grabbing crises and more about systemic issues that undermine long-term growth and innovation. This subtle yet significant vulnerability is a reminder that economic health is not simply about growth rates, but about the strength of the underlying ecosystem that supports sustained prosperity. As we transition to the southeastern corner of the nation, Mississippi presents a sobering picture of economic hardship. Known as the poorest state in the U.S. by per capita GDP, with figures hovering around $53.13, Mississippi contends with a scarcity of opportunities and a rising tide of joblessness. The limited unemployment coverage and the persistent struggle to create high-quality jobs illuminate a broader challenge. How can a state rebuild when faced with structural barriers to progress? This economic narrative is imbued with both urgency and heartbreak, for it reflects not just numbers on a balance sheet, but the day-to-day hardships experienced by millions of residents striving for a better quality of life. Up in the mountainous regions and vibrant urban centers of Colorado, another warning sign emerges. Colorado, despite its scenic beauty and robust tourism industry, carries the weight of the highest house debt-to-income ratio in the nation, a ratio of 1.1. The rising household debt, coupled with an increasing unemployment rate, signals a growing vulnerability. For many families in Colorado, the dream of financial stability is increasingly dashed by the realities of mounting debt and economic uncertainty. Experts caution that this trend could eventually erode consumer confidence and dampen the state's economic resilience, highlighting the pressing need for comprehensive policy reforms that address these imbalances before they spiral into a larger crisis. Turning to the Appalachian region, West Virginia presents a complex case. Recent data points to modest growth in 2024, yet long-term forecasts paint a bleaker picture. Loving the video so far? Give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It helps more than you know. The state now faces a future where growth stagnates, and the prospects for invigorating its economy become increasingly dim. West Virginia's narrative is one of cautious optimism, tempered by the weight of historical challenges. Economic stagnation, coupled with declining industries, creates an environment where even incremental progress is hard-won. Here, the convergence of past economic policies and contemporary market pressures underscores a critical truth that without transformative change, stagnation today can seed crisis tomorrow. Finally, we arrive in Oregon, a state known for its progressive policies and scenic landscapes, yet hiding economic risks beneath the surface. In 2024, the state reported a modest GDP growth of 1.2%, a figure that belies the structural vulnerabilities within its economy. Oregon's unique economic composition, influenced by both technological advancements and traditional industries, creates a challenging landscape for maintaining stability. With external factors and global market pressures exerting increasing influence, Oregon's future is shrouded in uncertainty. The intricate blend of economic promise and peril in Oregon reinforces the overarching theme that no state, regardless of its potential, is immune to the forces that drive economic collapse. Throughout this comprehensive analysis, one fact remains clear. The challenges each state faces are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader national narrative of economic instability. The numbers, trends, and expert opinions converge on a singular point. As 2026 approaches, several U.S. states are teetering on the brink of collapse, their futures marred by dependency, debt, and dwindling growth prospects. This unfolding story is not one of despair alone. It is a call to action. For economists, business professionals, policymakers, and concerned citizens, the warning is explicit. The status quo is unsustainable, and the costs of inaction are too high to ignore. The conflict at the center of this narrative is both systemic and deeply personal. Each state represents a community grappling with the fallout of decisions made long before our time. The data that paints Alaska's oil dependency, Louisiana's reliance on federal funds, Kansas' agricultural struggles, New Mexico's precarious budget, Illinois' pension burdens, Rhode Island's hidden weaknesses, Mississippi's economic hardships, Colorado's debt issues, West Virginia's creeping stagnation, and Oregon's structural vulnerabilities is a rallying cry for urgent reform. This collective crisis demands not only policy changes, but also a renewed commitment to economic resilience and sustainability at every level of government and society. Amid the detailed discussions, voices from the field, the experts, economists, and grassroots advocates underscore the transformative potential of informed action. They remind us that while the prognosis may be dire, it is not set in stone. Strategic policy adjustments, investments in diversified economic sectors, and community-driven initiatives hold the promise of steering these vulnerable states away from the precipice. The narrative presents not only an alarm, but also a pathway, one that emphasizes the need for robust dialogue, sound economic policies, and proactive measures that can reverse these worrying trends. In synthesizing this wealth of information, a pattern emerges that is both striking and sobering. The data does more than chart economic trends. It tells a story of resilience threatened by systemic challenges. The voices of experts echo the urgency of the situation, and the financial metrics reinforce a looming crisis that is slowly creeping across state lines. This is a wake-up call for all who value economic stability and the future well-being of our nation. Now is the time to recognize the signs, address the underlying causes, and act decisively to prevent a collapse that would reverberate far beyond state borders. As our analysis concludes, we are left with a definitive and resonant message. The economic forecast for 2026 is not merely a set of predictions etched in data. It is a call for each of us to remain informed, engaged, and proactive. The future is not predetermined. Every policy decision, every investment in community infrastructure, and every effort to diversify economic reliance plays a part in shaping a more secure tomorrow. The urgency of this narrative is clear. Stay informed about your state's economic health and advocate for policies that promote financial stability. Want more videos like this? Watch the next one here, and don't forget to subscribe for weekly uploads.